back with Bobby and JJ Radio. Our show is entitled Immigration Law, and our first guest is Elizabeth Reed. She's a graduate of the Universidad Panamericana School of Law in Guadalajara, Mexico. She has a double master's at St. Mary's University School of Law. She's a founder and partner at Sanchez, Villalpando, and Asociados. And she started her law firm in 2013, and she's about due to have a brand new baby here in a couple of weeks.
Correct.
Yeah. How are you doing today, Elizabeth?
We're doing good. Thank you so
much.
We're
so happy to have you guys on the show today. I think this is a great topic to really.
Could you do that intro again?
No,
with all that Spanish?
That's it, man. I actually was squeezing myself.
You did a good job.
Thank you.
I'm impressed.
I was practicing all night. No, I'm just kidding. So we're very excited to have you and Ann on the show. I think we're going to cover a lot of topics that I think a lot of our listeners and everyone in general is having questions about, which is the immigration laws that are out there, then how people can take advantage of them and make sure they're doing everything correctly, who they need to speak to, which is obviously you guys, and what they need to do, the steps to go through it. So, Elizabeth, we're going to start with you. Where do you start if you're a business owner?
Okay, well, when I see clients, the first question I ask is what are you looking for? What are your short-term or long-term needs?
Right.
Not everyone wants lawful permanent resident status. Some people are only looking for a temporary stay here in the United States. So that would be my first question.
Right.
Then I would dive into either if they have a business already formed here in the United States, because some people, they don't live here, but they have businesses here.
Right.
And some already do. So base it off of that. Start from there and then see what type of classification I can offer, what type of immigration strategy we can go with. If they don't, sorry, go ahead.
It's okay. What are the steps? So let's say someone does already have a business established here in the U.S., but they're a citizen of Mexico. What are the steps to kind of go from there if that's the situation in that particular case?
Okay. If they don't want permanent resident status, then I would look to see if they could qualify for either an E2 classification, that's investor visa, or the L1A, depending on if there's investment in the company or not.
Sure.
So the first thing I would look is what is the structure the business structure in Mexico? Is it a formed entity? Is it a DBA in Mexico? If it's formed, how many owners are there or shareholders, and the same here in the United States to see if there's a qualifying relationship among the organizations or the entities.
Right.
In order to be a qualifying organization, there has to be a similar ownership in both entities.
In both entities,
right.
Over there and here.
Correct,
Gotcha.
with shareholders.
So do they have to bring a business from Mexico, or can they start a brand new business from scratch?
They can. There's a possibility to start a new office, which is a great opportunity for either E2 or L1A, depending on which classification would fit the client's best needs.
So there's an E2, there's
L1A.
Yeah, I know, there's a lot of acronyms. Okay, the E2 is the investor visa. That's for people that are either have a new business or starting a new business, or they already have one and they just want the classification to start and to develop and continue on the business here.
So with an E2, are they able to live here in San Antonio, in America?
In America, yes, they can live here temporarily. It's not conducive to lawful permanent resident status per se, but it could. I mean, it could be a starting point depending on what the client's needs are and what the business is, where the business is going.
And where do you start? So is that the starting point if you want to invest here in the United States?
Well, the starting point would be, okay, do you have a business or do you not?
That's the starting point.
If you don't have a business, let's form an entity. So if you don't have an entity, usually I refer them to a CPA first to determine what the fiscal consequences are of either forming an LLC, a limited partnership, an Inc. So I don't give advice on fiscal matters, obviously. So that's the CPA's job. Once that is determined, then we form the entity. And then we determine what type of business it's going to be. Well, that's the client's job, obviously.
Sure.
Once that is set, then we see which classification he fits best. Either E2, he's going to invest a substantial amount of money, or an L1A, he's opening the counterpart office of his business abroad.
So give me an example of that L1A that you've seen.
The L1A is for someone that already has a business established, a foreign entity somewhere, I don't know, let's say Mexico.
Right.
And they either have an office already here in the United States, or they're looking to open a new office here.
Okay.
So that could be a branch office, a subsidiary, an affiliate, which is the most common one.
Right.
And this allows a transfer of either yourself as a business owner or a key employee who is serving either in an executive or managerial capacity abroad and is being transferred.
Here.
to reside here temporarily with the L1A, or if they want to, they might qualify for EB1C, which is the immigrant counterpart of the L1A. Okay. So that could be in a long-term, short-term basis, depending on if the business has been operating for at least a year here in the United States or not.
Sure.
So
Sorry,
does it matter?
Drink some water.
I'm
running out of breath.
Does it matter how big the business is? Can it be a very, because it sounds like these are large businesses.
That's a good question, actually.
What if it's like a one-man shop, like something very, very small? Does that count? Just to get residency here in the United States.
Right. Yeah. Yes and no. The regulation does allow for little shops, small organizations, or even a one-man shop, but unfortunately, they hardly ever get approved. Okay. I had a client in Mexico. He was a one-man show in Mexico, one-man show here in the United States, i.e. it's only him. Mm-hmm. And he claims that he has all these independent contractors when really he's just hiring FedEx to do his work. And unfortunately...
He's paying them.
Yeah. He is paying them, but technically they're not. I argued as hard as I could, but they weren't considered independent contractors by United States Citizenship Immigration Services. So
they do look at the size of the business. The more you invest, the better your chances are.
For sure. Yeah. Okay. And also the number of employees is a factor that they look at. Unfortunately, the number of employees you have.
Elizabeth, what do you do if you want to just start to get a work visa? What's the process there?
Well, the number one question is, do you have a job offer?
Okay.
Because a lot of people come to me and they're like, okay, I want a work visa. They have the misconception
that they get the work visa, then the job.
Correct.
Okay.
That you can get a general visa to work wherever. And that's not the case. You need to be sponsored specifically by a United States company here. So
my wife is a scientist at the University of Texas Health Science Center, so they have a lot of postdocs. So they get the job first, and then they work on the visa.
Usually H-1Bs would probably
better you than me that knows that kind of stuff. Yeah, that's above my pay grade. But yeah, absolutely. That's usually what they do. And so do you only help Mexican nationals, or who do you actually?
No, I help people from all over the world.
Sure.
The majority are Mexicans.
Sure.
And if you're Mexican or Canadian, you can qualify for the TN visa, which is based on the NAFTA. But it's only for certain professionals, obviously, like accountants, lawyers, engineers, industrial designers, what have you.
Sure.
If you don't qualify because you're not Mexican or Canadian,
right,
or if you don't have the certain profession, then you can qualify for H-1B classification.
And what is that one, the H-1B? What do you need to classify for that? So it's outside of the realm of those different categories of work, and then you fall into that category.
Right. If you don't qualify for TN, your next best bet would be H-1B, which is based on a specialty occupation, meaning you have a bachelor's degree.
Sure.
You would have to get paid the prevailing wage. It's a little bit more higher requirements, so to speak, because the characteristics of the H-1B allows for permanent residency.
Wow.
So unfortunately, there's only 65,000 visas issued per fiscal year, and they run out fast. I mean, the same week they opens, they run out fast.
So it sounds like the type of job that you're going to have, the amount of education you're going to have, it's going to improve your chances on getting the visa.
Definitely. Definitely.
So if you're going to show up as an engineer with a lot of education, your chances are a lot better than if you're going to show up and maybe sell oranges.
Correct. Although there is a visa for people that don't have, for example, a degree. That would be the H-2B classification or H-2A.
So back to the work visa. So let's say I do have the job. Then what are the steps at that point with you?
Well, I would give them the checklist of documents that we need, basically documentation from the employer,
right,
mainly proving the financial ability to pay this employee.
Sure.
And some documents from the employee, resumes, copies of degrees, stuff of that nature.
And so you get that all together, and then you really, because that's really what you guys are doing for these clients, is they don't know where to go or what route to come by.
Correct.
And so you're leading them down the perfect route with getting all their paperwork together, and then kind of representing them to make sure that everything goes through. Because I'm sure if there's any hiccups, it doesn't fare well for them, right? As far as the visa's
People
concerned.
think it's easy, but it really, sometimes, I mean, you can have little bumps around the road.
When I am showing houses in some areas, I see notarios, right?
Oh yeah, notarios.
Yeah, and they claim to be able to do all this kind of stuff, but I don't know if that's the case. But
no, they do not trust notarios at all, ever.
I know. That's what I was assuming, but I wanted to make sure that I bounce it off you and Ann. But yeah, I see notarios saying that, we can get all your paperwork together, but really they should be speaking with an immigration lawyer. Because
correct. They should not be working with a notario. Notario is an unauthorized practice of law.
Sure.
Unfortunately, lots of Mexicans go with notarios because a notario in Mexico is an attorney, first and foremost.
So it's almost, and here there's just a notary, but they're kind of, that's exactly what I was going to get to, in Mexico, those are...
maybe they're trying to save money, and it probably sounds like it'd be a lot cheaper to go to something like that.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
10 times cheaper.
It's a notary versus an attorney, right? So, yeah.
Right.
So how can someone get in contact with you to help them, or how can they... What's the best way to get it with you and set up an appointment and really talk about all these different options?
Right. Either a phone call, 210-314-1431, and we have a 1-800 number.
Great.
It's 1-800-316-6804, or via email Elizabeth@ereedlawfirm. That's REED lawfirm.com.
Great. So again, that's 210-314-1431 to contact Elizabeth Reed. She's with Elizabeth Reed Law Firm, and you can check out all information about her at ereedlawfirm.com. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll be back with Ann Ohlrich with Ohlrich Law Firm, and she's going to talk a little bit more specifically about the citizenship, immigration laws, and how she can help our viewers. Do not move an inch, do not touch your dial. This is Bobby and JJ Radio.